We are looking at the absolutely unprecedented spectacle of the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Today, we're going to examine not just the groundbreaking logistics of this tournament or the historic advantages playing out on the pitch, but also the invisible, heavy legal price that countries have to pay just for the privilege of hosting it. Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to unpack the glory, the geography, and the surprisingly intense legal battles behind the beautiful game. To really understand why this particular tournament is so historic, you just need to look at this magic number right here, 6. 6 host countries. In the entire 100-year history of the World Cup, we have never seen an event scaled quite like this. And, what makes 2030 specifically fascinating is who one of those hosts actually is: Spain. Following their victory in 2026, Spain enters this tournament as the defending champions and as a host. That is a combination that fundamentally changes the entire dynamic of the tournament. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer geographic madness of it all, because those 6 host countries don't just share borders, they span across 3 entire continents. We're talking about Europe, Africa, and South America, all coming together to put on a single massive global event. The travel, the logistics, the cultural exchange, it is going to be on a scale we've literally never witnessed before.
Okay, let's move to part 1, a century of football, the road to 2030.
To really appreciate the sheer size of a 6-nation, 3-continent tournament, we kind of have to look back at how this event evolved. This timeline perfectly captures the explosive growth of the World Cup. I mean, think about it. It started from incredibly modest beginnings in Montevideo, Uruguay back in 1930 with just 13 teams. Many of those players traveled for weeks by ship just to get there. Fast forward to 2002, and Japan and South Korea broke the mold as the first co-hosts. Then, just recently in 2026, the US, Canada, and Mexico expanded the field to a massive 48 teams. And now, for the 100th anniversary in 2030, we have an event that requires 6 sovereign nations to pull off the whole shebang. Now, what's really wild about the breakdown of these hosts is the unique setup. You have the 3 main hosts in Europe and Africa, Spain, Portugal, and Morocco, who are taking on the bulk of the 101 matches. Then you've got 3 South American nations, Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay, hosting just one centenary celebration match each to honor the tournament's roots. But here is the real kicker. FIFA rules stipulate that all 6 of these nations automatically qualify for the tournament. So, part 2, the host nation advantage, and why automatic qualification matters so much. Why do countries fight tooth and nail for this hosting privilege, aside from the obvious tourism boost? Well, the answer lies in a massive competitive edge. See, FIFA actually plays by 2 distinct sets of rules here. Up until 2002, defending champions automatically qualified for the next tournament. But after France's disastrous, winless run that year, FIFA changed the rules. They decided that defending champions must go through the brutal qualification rounds just to stay sharp. Host nations, on the other hand, keep their free pass to ensure local crowds are invested. And this makes 2030 an absolute historical anomaly. Since the tournament began in 1930, the defending champion has never simultaneously been the host nation. The roles have always been separated. Like, Brazil won in 2002, but Germany hosted in 2006. Spain won in 2010, Brazil hosted in 2014. France won in 2018, Qatar hosted in 2022. Argentina won in 2022, and North America hosted in 2026. But this time, Spain gets the ultimate hybrid advantage. But there is actually a really fascinating debate among football fans about a potential downside to this. As this quote points out, is automatic qualification actually a trap? Without high-stakes, do-or-die qualification matches, a team might only play low-stakes friendlies for a couple of years. So the question becomes, will Spain actually benefit from skipping the grueling qualifiers, or are they going to show up to their own party totally out of practice? Despite that fear, honestly, the historical trend is undeniable. Just look at this data. Home field advantage provides a massive, sometimes almost unfair, competitive edge. Uruguay in 30, England in 66, France in 98, they all won on home soil. South Korea rode the home wave to an unprecedented 4th-place finish in 2002. For Spain, this means playing with huge home crowd support, familiar stadiums and climates, and significantly less travel fatigue than visiting teams. If Spain successfully defends its title in 2030, they'll become only the 3rd nation in men's World Cup history to win consecutive tournaments, joining Italy from the 1930s and Brazil from the 50s and 60s. That is huge. But here is where we pivot. Part 3, FIFA's strict legal demands, the invisible cost of hosting. So, we can clearly see the glory and the massive on-field advantages of hosting. But now we have to step away from the pitch and look at international law. As detailed in this really fascinating excerpt from the Brooklyn Journal of International Law, hosting isn't just about pouring concrete for shiny new stadiums. It is about fundamentally surrendering a degree of legal sovereignty. To host the World Cup, a country must legally agree to play by FIFA's corporate rules. To understand why FIFA is so incredibly aggressive about their legal rights, you just have to follow the money. Let's look at the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Out of $6.1 billion in total revenue, television broadcast and marketing rights made up over $4.6 billion. That is the absolute lifeblood of the organization. And to protect those billions of dollars, FIFA literally makes it an explicit requirement in their bidding guidelines that sovereign governments basically bend the knee. They must provide important guarantees acknowledging FIFA's unrestricted ownership of all commercial rights. If a host country's existing domestic laws don't offer enough protection for FIFA's brand, well, FIFA simply demands that the host country alter its domestic laws. Let's break down exactly what these demands look like in practice, because it's pretty extreme. FIFA requires hosts to fast-track new intellectual property laws right through their parliaments or congresses. They even demand the creation of entirely separate, dedicated judicial courts just to handle World Cup-related infractions quickly. They require strict penalties for counterfeited goods, and they demand that local government officials actively monitor and prosecute brand violations on FIFA's behalf. Now, one of the primary targets of these dedicated courts is something called ambush marketing. This is FIFA's absolute biggest fear. It's when a local, non-affiliated business tries to unofficially piggyback off the tournament's hype. Imagine a local pub running an unauthorized World Cup special using FIFA's protected fonts or imagery. Under FIFA's forced legislation, local governments are literally required to aggressively hunt down and penalize their own local businesses to protect FIFA's official corporate sponsors. When you step back and really think about it, it is truly staggering. A private sports organization based in Switzerland wields enough geopolitical and economic power to force sovereign nations to rewrite their own legal codes and set up special courts, all just to host a 30-day football tournament. Imagine your own local laws being rewritten just to protect a single sporting event. Which brings us to part 4, the ultimate trade-off. Is it worth it? This is the ultimate conflict at the heart of the 2030 tournament, and honestly, the future of the World Cup itself. On one side of the scale, you have the unparalleled joy, the economic tourism burst, and the historical weight of the games. For a country like Spain, it is the golden opportunity to defend their world title with a massive home field advantage. But on the other side of the scale, you have the invisible costs, the enormous financial strain on infrastructure, the severe legislative burdens, and the intense forced legal policing of a nation's own citizens, just to protect FIFA's bottom line. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. When those 6 nations across 3 continents kick off the Centenary World Cup in 2030, and the crowds are roaring and the whole world is watching, who is really winning? Is it the host nations basking in the glory of the beautiful game, or is the ultimate victor always FIFA? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.